Hey there, if you're watching this, I already know two things about you. First, you're trying really hard, and your child, bless their deeply feeling, big reacting heart, isn't making it easy. So you've probably had this thought at some point. How is me staying calm supposed to get them to listen? And I get it. When your child is melting down or flat out ignoring you, taking a deep breath can feel useless. As a parent and grandparent, and even as a therapist, I've had moments where my child's emotions have totally knocked me off balance. This stuff is really hard, even when you know better. So let's talk about why emotion regulation is so central to parenting, especially when you're raising a sensitive child. So picture this. You're at the park and it's time to go. You say 2 more minutes and then time's up, time to go. Your child, they ignore you and then they smirk and then they take off running in the opposite direction. Your heart's pounding, you feel disrespected, you're completely humiliated, and you're feeling out of control. The thoughts then race in. They never listen. I'm failing. Everyone's looking at me. And suddenly, you're running after them, yelling, threatening, maybe even dragging them to the car. Sound familiar? Well, in that moment, emotion mind took the wheel. Not wise mind, not your parenting goals. Just you, emotion, adrenaline, and a whole lot of urgency. And here's the kicker. That reaction, yelling, chasing, dragging, that doesn't actually teach your child to listen the first time. What it does teach is how to respond to stress with more stress. It models emotional chaos. It shows them an adult who's overwhelmed and reactive. And that doesn't build trust, respect, or get you compliance. Now, emotion regulation is what lets us write a completely different ending. It gives us the tools to notice what's happening inside of us before we act on it. And it gives us the space to choose an intentional response rather than a knee-jerk one. And it doesn't mean that you're going to stay calm all the time, but it does mean being able to recognize when you're dysregulated and having the tools to get back to your center. So let's come back to this question. How is my emotion regulation going to help my child? And here's the real answer. Parenting deeply feeling sensitive kids is incredibly hard. And when you're raising a child like that, you don't have the luxury of being reactive. You have to be super effective, strategic, intentional. And those things can only happen when you're regulated. Because when you're in emotion mind, parenting becomes mood-based. You say things you don't mean, you threaten consequences you won't follow through on, and you give in because you're just exhausted. You lose your footing, and your child sees it. They feel it, they react to it because they're sensitive. But when you regulate first, you anchor the room. You model for your child what it looks like to feel really big feelings and still choose effective action. And that's one of the most powerful teaching tools we have, modeling. So no, staying regulated won't magically make your child listen, but it will allow you to choose the response that teaches, the one that holds the boundary and that moves the needle just a little bit forward. And over time, that's what creates change. So in this module, the emotion regulation module, we're going to focus on the tools that you can use when you're still in your emotion regulation zone. So think of it like a thermometer that goes from 0 to 100. 0 to 65, you still have access to logic, choice, and reflection. That's where these skills, the ones that we're going to talk about in the emotion regulation module, and that's where the skills in this module live. Once you're above 65, when your system is flooded, we're going to switch to a whole different set of skills called distress tolerance skills, and that's in the next module. Right now, we're building the muscles that let you stay in an emotionally regulated zone longer and come back to it faster. So in this module, you're going to learn why emotions matter and what they're trying to do, how to recognize the chain reaction between your thoughts, beliefs, sensations, and actions, how to observe emotions without getting swept away using tools like the sushi train, clouds in the sky, leaves on a stream, and be the pond. You're going to learn how to check the facts to figure out if your emotions fit the situation, how to use opposite action when your emotions are leading you somewhere unhelpful, how to problem solve when the situation is the real problem, and how to let it go with gentle mind-body tools. Keep in mind you're not going to have to be calm all the time. It's impossible, and you don't have to get it perfect. But the more you understand your own emotional map, the more skillfully you can navigate it, and therefore the more effective you'll be. And the more effective you are, the safer, more regulated, and more supported your child will feel. And that's where the real change begins. So let's dive in.